Looks as though I made it again. Hello everybody, Paul Ducklin here from Naked Security at Sophos. Once again, it's Friday afternoon and it's another gorgeous day in England, and it's actually a public holiday today. We're celebrating, it's the May Bank holiday. We're also celebrating the 75th anniversary of the end of the attempt at Nazi tyranny in Europe. It's VE Day. So to everybody who's celebrating that and the freedoms we enjoy today that could so easily have been taken away in the past, thanks to everybody, including my late parents, who both did their bit during the Second World War. Thanks to everybody who did that. If you're wondering, more yellow in the field behind, well, more yellow in front, the Tangerine Dream. Well, a bit of off-roading today, but the yellow in the background that you see there, that's not canola or oilseed rape. Those are just good plain old buttercups. And today's topic, I'll be very quick because there are lots of bitey flies around. I got bitten like crazy last week, so I'm hoping to reduce that problem this week by keeping it briefer than I did. And I just want to talk about something that follows on neatly from the fact that yesterday was World Password Day. And we did a little video, and of course I gave my standard 3 tips, long, complex and unique, and a couple of spare 5 tips to go and fits into 3. And of course somebody asked me, I received a question afterwards that said, well, I get this idea about long passwords, right? It's so that crooks can't easily guess them. So you don't have the word book, you have the word more like encyclopedia or inglingaplongia, which isn't even in a dictionary. So if that's a necessity for when I'm creating online accounts, how come on my phone or on my bank card or on my mobile phone SIM, if I put a pin on my mobile phone SIM, I can't have more than 8 characters. It's 4 minimum, 8 maximum. How come that's enough? How come even Apple, much vaunted, who say a lot about security, and they have very, very good security in the iPhone, they're very notoriously super hard to hack, as any law enforcement person or government spokesperson will probably tell you. How come Apple says, hey, 6 digits is fine for your phone? But when it comes to a website password, we're normally saying things like 14 characters. So let's go on to that. I'm going to step forward because there's a few comments. Just want to say hi. Karen, hey, back from Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, hope you're having weather as nice as we are. I know you have great weather there, but today's been superb. And Teresa, hello from chilly Ottawa, eh? Well, it's not chilly here today, I'm pleased to say. So welcome back, guys. I know you guys are regular. Thanks for tuning in. We do greatly appreciate it. And another one, oh, Teresa, I like the hair growth. Yeah, I was thinking of going for dreads, but I'm really hoping that lockdown doesn't last that long, because I would like to get to the barber. So let's crack on with it. Why is 6 digits okay? And remember, a couple of years ago, Apple created controversy when they said, you know what, we kind of decided 4 digits is no longer enough, you've got to go for 6. And everyone said, oh, 6 digits, that's a lot. But for websites, we need 14 characters or more. Now, the bottom line of it, I'm going to oversimplify a little bit here, but the bottom line of it, it's the difference between what's known as an offline attack and an online attack. If you want to try and unlock, for example, a mobile phone SIM card, the only way to do it is to put electrical probes or electrical contacts onto the chip, and you say to it, I'd like to unlock. The pin I want to try is 1, 2, 3, 4. And your only way to access that chip and to see if the pin is correct is through the contacts and the API, the programming system that is provided. Exactly the same in a mobile phone. Apple call it their secure enclave. It's a special chip, security chip in Android phones. That's where you're negotiating, and there is no way round the back. You can't lift the curtain like you can with the Wizard of Oz and see the little old chap in there who's actually making things work. So the thing with your mobile phone, SIM card, credit card, mobile phone or whatever, is you can only authenticate against the device itself, physically in fact, and even if you take out a mobile phone SIM card, you can't clone it and you can't read the data out of it to go to a faster computer and try and attack it there with different software. So that's an online attack where you're forced to go through what you might call a gatekeeper that's provided by the system itself. And the point is, for example, with a mobile phone SIM, if you get that pin wrong 3 times, basically it locks you out. Then you get 10 goes with your 10 character pin unlock code, and after the next 10 goes, so that's 13 in total, the card actually wipes itself out and the SIM is useless from then on. So it basically falls on its sword, and that means you get 13 guesses and then it's completely game over. There's no way to copy the data out and go and try and attack it somewhere else. Now, when you access a website, mostly when you're logging in online, you're kind of doing an online attack because you're going online to log in. But websites aren't really like mobile phones or SIM cards or credit cards where it's one chip, one PIN, one user. Basically, most websites have a huge database. It doesn't contain the actual password, or it shouldn't, but it contains some kind of cryptographic secret that can verify that the password you put in is correct. So if you are logging in through the official portal or the official login process of the website, then in theory, a short password ought to be enough, because most well-managed websites these days perform what's called rate limiting, which means if you guess too fast, like your SIM card locks you out after 3 goes, makes you put in a longer password. Most websites will give you a few goes, then they'll lock you out for a while, then they'll lock you out for a bit longer, and if you try far too often, they could even freeze your account and require you to do a reset. So the theory is that you can, and there's a great paper on nakedsecurity.sophos.com, by the way, written by Mark Stockley. It's a few years old, but it's great coverage of this. Just go to Naked Security, hit the magnifying glass, the search button, and put in strong passwords. And Mark describes all of this online v offline there. And the theory generally is that if you're logging into a website through the website's own portal, where it controls the speed at which you guess, the number of guesses you're allowed, how long you can keep on trying, how many places you can guess from at the same time, when it's in control, you probably don't need a password that would hold out more than about, say, 1 million guesses. The problem with websites, though, is occasionally, it's not supposed to happen, but it does, crooks may break in, there's a data breach. If they make off with that database, they don't get the passwords, well, they shouldn't. If you have a login on a website where they don't store the passwords salted and hashed, where they actually store plain text passwords, close your account with that service right away, because they're not playing the game right. Now, the crooks aren't supposed to be able to steal the database, but the precaution is when they do that the passwords aren't in there, for each user, you need to try a huge list of passwords. And that's what's called an offline attack, because that's like when crooks break into a building and instead of actually trying to pick the lock or deal with the safe while there are security guards around and they've only got 5 minutes and they have to be whisper quiet, they cut the safe out, they take it home, they put it in their workshop. Now they can go crazy. They can use all the power tools they want. They can take as long as they like. They can have 17 different people looking at it. They can even blow it up with explosives in the end if they want. And that's the benefit the crooks get if they steal a password database and run off with it. They are no longer going through that gatekeeping that your mobile phone or your SIM card or your credit card or the website's official portal puts them through. They're able to throw out all of that rate limiting, so they can try as fast as they like, with as many computers as they like, for as long as they like, for as many users as they like. So the problem then is if you're one of the people with the short password that tends to be at the top of the list of known bad passwords people choose or variants thereof, like your cat's name, then when the crooks are throwing 1,000 PlayStations at the problem and they're cracking like crazy and they know they've got a week or a month or even a year to try it, the shorter your password, the more likely you're going to be higher up the list and the sooner your password is going to be cracked. So the trick about having a long password for logins where there's a possibility that crooks could, in theory, make off with the database and attack it without any rate limiting, without any rules that say you can only have 50 guesses an hour. If that's a risk, the reason you want a long password is what you're doing is that in the event of a data breach, you're buying yourself enough time so that you get the chance to go in with your old password and change it to a new one before the crooks get to your long and complex password on the list. So it really is a game of like when the two guys are out walking in the bush and one sees a lioness hunting and he whips off his hiking boots and he puts on his trainers and his buddy says to him, "What are you doing? You'll never outrun the lion." And of course the guy says, "I don't have to out the lioness, I only have to outrun you." And to some extent there's an element of that in computer security. If you're one of the short passwords at the top of the list and the crooks run off with a database and attack it, and that's typically what they do when they get hold of these databases, they mount a crack and they go after the accounts whose passwords crack first and soonest, because those are the ones where it's less likely that the person knows about the breach and has had time to change their password. Of course, running off with this password database on a mobile phone or a credit card or something like that, the idea is that the tamper resistance built into the chip itself, where the cryptographic manipulations that deal with the unlock code are handled, the idea is that that chip is secure enough that even if the crooks steal it, even if they take the SIM card out of your phone and take it away, they can't get the data out that they need to try recovering the PIN. They only get a set number of guesses and then it's game over. And that isn't true if they get a database off the website. Having said that, if you do look after your website, if you are a sysadmin for a web server, the fact that you salt and hash and store these cryptographically secure versions of passwords so you can match them without knowing what the original password is, that's not an excuse to say, well, it's okay if the crooks run off with a database, because you never know when they're going to get lucky. So the idea is that that's the idea of layered protection or defense in depth, that a website operator with an authentication database, firstly, they will try and make sure that nobody gets near it and that crooks can't make off with it, and they can only try and guess passwords through this controlled rate limited interface. But just in case the worst happens, the next layer of defense is the passwords aren't stored in there as passwords. They're stored in there in a way that causes the crooks to take a significant amount of time to try millions or trillions of passwords for each user. And that paper I mentioned that Mark Stockley wrote all those years ago, it's a great read, even though it's a few years old, still current. I said the theory back then was that a password that could only ever be cracked in online mode, where somebody else gets to decide how many goes you try, maybe that needs to be good enough to be resistant against a million guesses. But you need to start thinking that if you have a password that can be cracked in an offline way, where the crooks can throw tens of thousands of computers, high-powered computers at it for as long as they like, you probably need to think more on the line of a password that could withstand 100 million or a million guesses. And for that, you need more than 6 digits. So I've made it sound perhaps more complicated than it is, but it's the difference between the idea that when the person you're checking the password against is strongly able to prevent you running off with the data and having a go by yourself, you're in a much stronger position than when crooks actually get hold of a password database and set about cracking it. If your password's strong enough, you'll be one of the people who outruns the lioness, and you will have time to change your password before the crooks are able to figure out your old one and begin to abuse it. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. I'm going to step forward and see if I can read some of the comments. So hello from Illinois, very cold today. Love that shirt. Oh, that's from Karen Metz. Thanks, Karen. You can actually buy these shirts on shop.sophos.com if you like them. There's a whole range of them. I think this one's still available, and there are other cool ones like Break a Hacker's Heart, Malware is a Dish. I'll try that again. Malware is a dish, best served never. There's about 8 different cool brands like this. It's quite good fun, and they're great talking points when you meet people. Let me have another go here. Here's looking at you, Ashley Madison. Yes, that was a famous breach where there were loads of passwords, and those passwords, I believe, were exposed because they weren't stored properly. So again, if you're a sysadmin of a website operator, for a website, make sure that your passwords are stored securely. And there's actually a great paper, nakedsecurity.sophos.com again. I think it's Serious Security, How to Store Your Customers' Passwords Safely. That's an old but very popular article of ours. It actually explains how you go about storing passwords so you can't go back from the password hash to the original password, but you can reliably recognize when someone puts the right password in. So thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the nice country feel behind me with the buttercups in. And until next time, stay secure. And the finish button again gets me every time. Oh, Tom Burns, thanks for making complex things easier to understand for arty folks like me. It's an absolute pleasure. They shouldn't be difficult to understand, and the technology industry, the cybersecurity industry, sometimes we do love our jargon a bit, and we've almost like we've run out of 3-letter acronyms. Now we're on to 4-letter acronyms. Sometimes just taking a step back and saying this is how it works. It's like whether somebody else is in control or whether you're in control of the cracking, that makes the difference. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and cheers everybody.